For the second time in 2 days, Donald Trump has dropped a batch of pardons for people mostly comprised of his political cronies and allies. Among the pardons that were last night were 4 Blackwater contractors, former U.S. service members, who opened fire on unarmed Iraqi civilians in Nisour Square in 2007. At least 14 people were killed, at least 17 more wounded. It took years to bring those shooters to justice. 3 of them were sentenced to 30 years in prison. One of them, the sniper who first opened fire, was given life without parole. Now all 4 of them have been fully pardoned by President Donald Trump. Paul Dickinson is a lawyer who represented the families of several victims in the 2007 Nisour Square massacre in civil litigation, and Paul Dickinson joins me now. Paul, thank you so much for making time. I wonder if we can just start with your description of what happened in Nisour Square back in 2007 and what it did to the families that you represent.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. What happened on that day was a traffic circle and traffic going through on an ordinary day. My client, Ali Kanani, and his family were in an SUV. His father, Mohammed, was driving through with other family members through the traffic circle. 4 armored vehicles, tan-colored armored vehicles, ran through the traffic circle, held up their hands in a stop sign to have the traffic stop. Mohammed, who was Ali's father, thought nothing of it because it's frequent, especially this close to the green zone where they were. The tower you see there is mere blocks from the entrance to the green zone. Thought that someone important was either leaving or entering the green zone. He looked to his right, saw the person that's in one of the white vehicles that's in this video say that somebody in front of him had just been shot. At about that time, bullets start to rain down on his SUV. He ducks for cover, pulls his sister, who's sitting in the front seat, down. Ali, his son, and his 2 cousins are in the back seat. As the bullets rained, Mohammed peeks up, trying to see what's going on, sees victims being shot, killed, machine gun fire all over. His SUV is riddled with bullets. As soon as it started, it stopped. He thought everybody was okay, that they had lived through a miracle, when one of the cousins in the back seat said that Ali was hurt. Mohammed got out of the car, opened the door, went to the back seat, saw blood on the inside of the window, and Ali slumped over against the glass. He opened the door, and this is a bit graphic, but what happened was Ali slumped towards Mohammed. His skull was open, and a portion of his brain fell out onto the pavement in Nisour Square. And in fact, there's an image of that in that video that you were showing, which I presume that you are not showing on TV. Mohammed pushed his son back in the car, turned his vehicle around on flat tires and a shot-out windshield, and drove to a hospital that was only a few blocks behind them, behind Nisour Square. When they arrived, Ali, he was doing everything he could for his son, but knew that he probably had a fatal injury. Ali was still alive at the hospital. He had doctors look at Ali. He wanted to get treatment for his son. They told him they could not treat him, that the hospital was like a war zone. There were people in the hallways. Pickup trucks were bringing victims into the hospital. They had an ambulance dispatch for Mohammed and Ali to go to a neurologic hospital across town. They had to actually go back through Nisour Square to get there. During the ride, Ali convulsed as Mohammed held his hand, and he died. I was contacted to represent them and others in a civil lawsuit against Blackwater, Eric Prince, and other of the 4 that were convicted of these murders and manslaughter charges. We proceeded with a civil lawsuit in North Carolina against Blackwater and the men, the shooters. That case was removed from state court to federal court. We fought to have it back in state court. It was in a court of appeals, a Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond, Virginia. And we eventually resolved the case favorably for all parties without the necessity of trial. And I represented the Kanani family and several others.
There was reporting today about the families. Obviously, this is a profound trauma for everyone that lived through this, including the family you represent and lost people in it. There was reporting today by Adela Suleiman for us at NBC. The pardons have reduced American talk of human rights to mere slogans. a brother of one of the victims said. Obviously, there's a place for mercy. There's a place for pardon. Obviously, even people do incredibly heinous things. But I do wonder what the reverberations of this pardon are for the family you represent and for others who lived through that day in Iraq.
Well, here's what I noticed. I've seen a lot of comments about the efforts that took to get these convictions. As we know, on New Year's Eve in 2009, the original indictments were dismissed. They had to re-indict these four men. It was six at one point that were indicted. They had to start over. FBI had to start their investigation over. Prosecutors had to start their case over with the new indictments. And they then tried these four men and obtained convictions. Some of those were overturned. Nicholas Slatton was tried with the other three. The Court of Appeals determined that he should have had a separate trial. He was given a separate trial. He was convicted again. What I see the court system doing in this case is working the way it should. If the court system, if the federal judges that evaluated this, the Court of Appeals that saw how the case was tried, if they felt that it needed to be retried, if they felt that there was something unfair about the way the evidence was presented against these four men, they took their steps that was required in our legal system and ensured that they got a fair trial. So what I see in this situation is that these four men were given the fair trial that they deserved, and they were convicted of their crimes. And what this does now is it takes the convictions, it takes the promise that the U.S. government gave to these victims that they were going to continue to fight for them, continue these prosecutions, and it slaps them in the face when they walk away. Yeah. The FBI's second largest investigation after 9/11 was the Nisour Square shooting. There was an inordinate amount of time, effort, and money spent in this, and it appears that it was for naught. And I think that the families have lost the faith, or could lose the faith that they have in the U.S. justice system.